Tetris is a 2023 biographical thriller film directed by John S. Baird, written by Noah Pink. The film stars Taron Egerton, Nikita Eremov, Sofia Lebedeva, and Anthony Boyle. It is based on the true events around the race to license and patent the video game Tetris from Russia in the late 1980s during the Cold War. Tetris premiered at the SXSW Film Festival on March 15, 2023, and was released on March 31st by Apple TV+. The film received generally positive reviews from critics. The cast includes Taron Egerton as Henk Rogers. Henk Rogers is a Dutch video game designer and entrepreneur of partial Indo descent. He's known for producing Japan's first major turn-based role-playing video game, The Black Onyx, securing the rights to distribute Tetris on video game consoles where the game found popularity, and as the founder of Bulletproof Software, now called Blue Planet Software, and the Tetris Company, which licenses Tetris trademark. He is instrumental in resolving license disputes that brought Tetris to the Game Boy. Today he is managing director of the Tetris Company. Nikita Yemerov as Alexei Pachanov. A Soviet-born American computer engineer and video game designer, he's best known for creating, designing and developing Tetris in 1985 while working at the Dorotnetsin Computing Center under the Academy of Sciences of the Soviet Union, now the Russian Academy of Sciences. In 1991, he moved to the United States and later became a U.S. citizen. In 1996, Pachanov founded a Tetris company alongside Dutch video game designer Henk Rogers. Pachanov did not receive royalties from Tetris prior to this time, despite the game's high popularity. Sofia Lebedeva as Sasha. At first a translator for Henk Rogers, it is later proven that she's an undercover agent for the KGB. Anthony Boyle as Kevin Maxwell. Maxwell is a British businessman. In the 1990s, Maxwell was acquitted for charges relating to financial crimes connected with business practices of his father, publishing tycoon Robert Maxwell. Formerly disqualified from being a company director, he has been declared bankrupt twice. He is the co-founder of the think tank Combating Jihadist Terrorism. Ben Miles as Howard Lincoln, an American lawyer and businessman known for primarily being the former chairman of Nintendo of America and the former chairman and chief executive officer of the Seattle Mariners baseball team. Ken Yamamura as Minoru Arakawa, a Japanese businessman best known for the founder and former president of Nintendo of America and co-founder of Tetris Online Incorporated. Toby Jones as Robert Stein, a man sent to Russia by the Maxwells to obtain the licensing deals to sell Tetris worldwide. And Roger Allam as Robert Maxwell, a Czechoslovak-born British media proprietor and member of parliament, suspected spy and fraudster. Early in his life, Maxwell escaped Nazi occupation in his native country and joined the Czechoslovak army in exile during World War II and was decorated after active service in the British Army. In subsequent years, he worked in publishing, building up Perigomen Press to a major academic publisher. After 6 years as a Labour MP during the 1960s, Maxwell again put all his energy into business, successfully buying the British Printing Corporation, Mirror Group newspapers, and Macmillan Publishers, among other publishing companies. Maxwell led a flamboyant lifestyle, living in Headington Hill Hall in Oxford, from which he often flew his helicopter or sailing in his luxury yacht, the Lady Ghislaine. He was litigious and often embroiled in controversy. In 1989, Maxwell had to sell successful businesses, including Paragon Press, to cover some of his debts. In 1991, his body was discovered floating in the Atlantic Ocean, having apparently fallen overboard from his yacht. He was buried in Jerusalem. Filming began in Glasgow in December 2020, including use of Glasgow's Prestwick Airport and Ayrshire coast. Filming also took place in Aberdeen at locations including the University of Aberdeen's Zoology Building, which was used as the headquarters of the Soviet firm Elog. In an interview prior to the film's release, Henk Rogers said that both he and Alexei Pachanov reviewed the script and had made suggestions. However, Rogers noted, "It is a Hollywood script, a movie. It's not about history, so a lot of what's in the movie never happened. There were events in the movie that did not transpire in real life," he said. For instance, Rogers notes that he did convince Nintendo to bundle Tetris in with the Game Boy at launch in place of Super Mario Land. Rogers emphasized that the producers wanted to capture the darkness and the brooding that he felt during his time trying to get the rights to Tetris in the then Soviet Russia. He continued, "They tried their best to accept our changes when they had to do it with authenticity. But when it started getting into the creative flourishes like the car chase and all that, I was like, okay, now that's all on them. We couldn't change anything they wanted to do like that." Justin Chang of the Los Angeles Times criticized the casting of Egerton, a Welsh actor of English descent, as Rogers, who is of partial Indonesian descent, as whitewashing. Chang remarked in his review that the suspension of disbelief, as Egerton describes himself as being of partly Indonesian descent, was tough to pull off in a story where cultural specificities were not exactly irrelevant. Some fun trivia notes. Early in the movie, Hank talks about how when he sleeps, he can still see the Tetris pieces in his dreams. This is actually a real phenomena called the Tetris effect. The term was coined by journalist Jerry Goldsmith in 1994 to describe when something that someone focuses on for extended periods of time starts appearing in their thoughts, perceptions, and dreams. Robert Maxwell is the father of 9 children, one of whom is Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell was found guilty of child sex trafficking in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. Tetris was the best-selling video game of all time from 1993 until 2020, when it was surpassed by Minecraft. However, it should be noted that that count includes all ports of the games, which vary technically from one version to the next. The now-defunct mobile version, developed by EA, had alone sold over 100 million copies, making it the third best-selling game after Minecraft and Grand Theft Auto 5. The Tetris franchise, as a whole, has sold nearly 500 million copies, making it the second best-selling game franchise after Mario. Now I find myself really enjoying this film. In many ways it's quite light-hearted, but then of course as it evolves it becomes quite a Cold War-like thriller. And what I really loved is the film really immerses you in the feel and look of the 80s, also with its fantastic score here by Lorne Balfe, who really transports you back to the 80s with very heavy synth-styled music. The film transports you back to the Soviet Union and the communist Russia, probably not too dissimilar from how Russia would be in terms of doing business with today. But back then, a businessman making deals with communist nations could very well mean the difference between life and death. Russia was a communist nation, and so it did not want its citizens to benefit in any way. Also, everything was controlled by the government and the KGB. Corruption was high, and everyone was spying on each other. Now, of course, Tetris is about one man's vision. He sees Tetris as a game that could take over the world and change the way people play games. He feels that just getting the licensing rights and dealing with the Russians would be quite an easy, quick affair. But of course, Henk doesn't quite understand how difficult and complicated Russian politics can be. This is now where the film deviates from your typical Cold War-related feature in what takes the idea of a video game being a subject matter very seriously. It shows you the amount of obstacles Henk has to surpass, but it also does it in a tongue-in-cheek sort of way. We watch Hank narrowly dodge being arrested by the KGB for owning an illegal copy of Tetris, which could end up with him being thrown in a gulag for a very long time. Additionally, we also see him struggling to communicate simple commands due to the presence of outdated technology like faxes and phones, and they cannot dial internationally. Yet all of this feels believable given the time frame in which the story is of course set. There's a real retro vibe to this whole film, and incorporating the video game looks as well just adds to the overall entertainment. For instance, the film seems to appear divided into 4 levels, which of course is done to reflect the 4 blocks that are used in each Tetris piece. As the story progresses, we witness Hank level up as he drifts ever closer to sealing the deal to distribute Tetris to the countries outside, of course, the Soviet Union. We also get to see scenes transitioning from one to the next via 8-bit pixels layered over live-action established shots. Look, while some scenes are clearly added for dramatic effect, like the fast-paced car chase for example, what it does though is really adds to the overall entertainment of this very well-made film. Now, Taron Egerton is a superb actor and he can carry almost any kind of performance that he's given. Here he plays Hank Rogers as a likeable and charming man who will stop at nothing to get Tetris to the world and help its creator. I did find it somewhat confusing though that Hank of course is married to a Japanese lady and his children look completely Japanese. So I'm not too sure if they're adopted or maybe from a previous marriage. Also, of course, Hank Rogers in real life is of Indonesian heritage and Taron Egerton looks nothing like him at all. But if you look past those things, Taron delivers another charming and excellent performance here as Hank Rogers in this film. The rest of the cast are on point here as well. I particularly enjoyed Anthony Boyle as Kevin Maxwell and of course Roger Allam as Robert Maxwell. And Nikita Yeremov plays Alexei with a lot of charm and charisma. For a game entirely focused around lining up falling blocks, Tetris has certainly had an interesting history behind its inception. The very fact that they made a film about it is testament to how impactful Tetris has been on pop culture. Even if you don't like Tetris, you can still acknowledge this film for how it is able to combine the elements of the Cold War thriller with the mere development of an iconic contribution to the gaming world as a whole. I found this to be a very well made, fun, easygoing, but at the same time thrilling and fascinating insight into one of the most famous games in the world today. With its excellent script, good performances, and fascinating story, Tetris gets a 9 out of 10.